On today's episode, Mike and Ryan travel across the country to determine how each region puts its own unique spin on the American IPA. Cheers. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Brewthers-In-Law podcast, where beer is thicker than water. Join us on a journey discovering home brewing, craft beer, and more. My name is Mike, and with me, as always, is my brother-in-law, Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
What's up?
It's almost like we haven't been hanging out for a while.
Well,
It's taken a long time to get to hello. I've been here for an hour and a half.
Almost 7 minutes.
Okay. So today we are going to be just talking about regional variations in American IPA in different parts of America, and specifically trying to answer some questions about what exactly are some of these regional substyles, because some of them are clear, some of them less so.
Yeah.
But Ryan, my question for you on the first sip is, what else in America? Name another thing that varies across the country of America, that varies across America, that you really appreciate for the different varieties of it.
I had two for this. One is more just funny. I'm going to say real quick, is just the accent.
That's a great one.
That's a fun story that my wife Mallory told me one time, was that she went to Germany and she on a school trip, and she was with other people across the country going to Germany and everything else. You had people from Texas, from Washington State, from the East Coast, everything. And the Germans determined her Midwest accent was the quintessential American accent and stronger accent than anyone else, including Texas, including New York, and anything else. So
that's insane.
It is funny. And like I'm a Navy brat. My parents were in the Navy. So like I've been across the different parts of the country and I picked up accents and everything else. I've been here long enough where like I fight it. There are a few.
Just drop those T's, Ryan.
Drop those T's. I won't do it.
You know you want to do it.
But that was a fun one. The other one that I really wanted to say was it's breakfast.
Oh, interesting.
Because different regions have different things for breakfast. Like you have your traditional breakfast, eggs, bacon, and toast, whatever. But like grits are down south. You have more in the northwest coast. You have more of a like the ham is big over there than bacon usually is. Like a lot of people like ham. Yeah. Same thing here. A lot of people, I hate ham. Like
I love
Canadian
ham. Bacon
it's not bacon. Don't try and trick me. It's ham.
No, but it's ham, and ham's great.
Ham is not for breakfast.
Ham is great for breakfast. So I would say in Michigan too, it's less, to an extent, it's what you eat, but it's where you eat it. In Michigan, it's Coney Island.
It is Coney Island. You got Waffle House
National
down
Coney
south.
Island. Yeah, you go to Waffle House is for traveling out of Michigan to somewhere else. Just have a Waffle House. Yeah.
What about you? What do you got?
So my two big ones are barbecue and blues music.
Ooh.
So there's almost a ring to that. That could be a country album, barbecue and blues music. But or like a bar in Nashville.
Yes, that is a bar.
That's a bar in Nashville. Yes. Yeah, that's what it is. It's probably great too because they play blues. But yeah, both of them, sort of have their own traditions. Barbecue sauces. You've got your Carolina sauce, you've got your Texas sauce, and but not only that, but like what they cook. Is it pulled pork? Is it brisket?
Mm-hmm. Chicken.
And so, I love both of them. Good one. And then blues obviously as well is a little bit harder to very easily pin down, but there's a lot, there's like Chicago blues, there's Memphis blues. Right. There are a lot of different kind of traditions of blues music, and I love blues music. So those are my two.
All right, I like it.
So with that said, why don't we dive in? Why don't you sort of lay out for the good listeners exactly what
stage
is the question we have set before us here?
So we've just did actually an IPA episode, the Black IPA. Yeah. We talked about
we've covered IPA a fair bit at this point.
IPA's got a lot of stuff to talk about, and this is another one. Like we did Stone and a couple other things, but like. But this one we wanted to be very specific. We obviously know there's different colors. There's different flavors you can do. You can do doubles. You can do this crazy thing. Fruit additions. Yeah. So many things you do with IPAs. But we wanted to set this down fruit, color, don't care. We wanted to set down actual regions. What is traditionally done on one section, another section, another section, another section, and like call it and set the boundaries there.
Okay.
Everyone makes like you can go to the West Coast and you can get a double, you can get a red, you can get a black, you can get anything you want. You can get any kind of fruit. Those are everywhere. I want to see actually like from a specific region of this country.
Yeah. Okay. So, and so the impetus for this, I know at least for me, because I think I was the one that suggested it, but I know I was reading about. I don't remember where this came up, but somewhere in a sort of a Google tunnel that I was in, or like a Wikipedia tunnel.
Deep dive.
I stumbled on the term Midwest IPA, and I'd heard of West Coast IPA. I kind of knew what that was. Everybody's heard of New England IPA in 2021. So hot right now. But like, I was just like, what the heck is a West Coast or is a Midwest IPA? Like, it's just it's just a normal IPA. Like, we don't make them differently here. So I started reading about it. When I was reading about it, I also stumbled on the term East Coast IPA used in such a way that made me feel like it was not the same thing as a New England IPA. Yeah. And I was like, well, then what the heck is an East Coast IPA? And I became very confused. And I know I talked to you about it, and I asked you, and you were like, yeah, I've seen some of that too. And like, so we both ended up doing a little bit of research. And we've brought our research. We've brought some sort of prototypical beers of each of these styles. We're going to be trying those 4, West Coast, New England, as the kind of our starting points, are kind of, I would almost say goalposts, since they're almost kind of diametrically opposed to each other. And then we're gonna try an example of what could be considered an East Coast, a prototypical example of a Midwest, and then we are also, kind of as a bonus, going to try an American IPA that markets itself as an English style, and see where that slots into this. So, so let's. I just did that.
You took my part.
So, I took your part. I'm sorry.
Well, I could dive in a little bit.
I'm getting ahead on the. So let's just start. Okay, so we're going to start with the big ones: West Coast and New England. Why don't you, Ryan, explain a little bit, sort of like, from your perspective, what does that mean? Because it's West Coast, at least, isn't even like an officially recognized substyle. It's more of a marketing term. But like, when you hear West Coast IPA, what do you think?
Smack you in the face with hops, pretty much. Like that's just whatever hop flavor that's there, whether it is pine, whether it's citrus, whether it's fruit or something like that. It's just something that's like smack you in the face.
So it's like a matter of like how assertive the hops are.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. So I would agree. The other thing I think is that I specifically associate them as being very piney.
Yeah.
Pine and citrus is what I think of when I think of a West Coast, and also very pale.
Yeah.
So not a lot of malt complexity, real simple malt bill, so that there's nothing hiding the hops.
Yep.
And like you said, they can just give you a big old smack in the head.
All right, let's go to the next one. New England. Obviously it's well-known style. Is it an official like style actually?
It is like on the BJCP website, it's recognized as like a specialty style, the same way like a black IPA is.
Gotcha. So England,
it's a sub-style of an American IPA, but it is officially recognized because they're so hot right now.
So what would you describe as a basic New England IPA?
Hazy. Everybody always talks about them being kind of juicy, both in mouthfeel. So like, kind of just a different, like a rounder mouthfeel, whereas a New England IPA or if a West Coast is like bracingly crisp, a New England is softer and rounder, and then like very juicy hop flavors, focus on fruit flavors, really getting rid of the rest of it.
Yep.
And then kind of hazy and that sort of like juicy kind of mouthfeel.
Okay. Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's definitely not going to slap you in the face with pine. It's not going to slap you. It might slap you in the face with some citrus, but like that's not as intense.
It's going to chuck an orange at your head instead of smacking you in the face.
Right? An orange and a lemon and a pineapple coming right at you.
Ooh, man, a pineapple can do some damage.
And obviously, we don't know a whole lot about the East Coast and the Midwest, so we'll wait on those.
Yeah, let's wait till after the break, and we can both kind of share what we think it is, and then we'll try and see for ourselves. But
so you brought us we've done this one. We've had this one. It's Stone IPA.
Yeah. So our West Coast IPA is Stone IPA.
It literally says on the bottom.
Granted, we'll be recovering a little bit of territory, but it is just the quintessential West Coast IPA.
It literally says the iconic West Coast style IPA.
Right. So if we're trying to determine the style, it's got to be Stone. So this is coming in at 6.5% alcohol with 71 IBU, so 71 bittering units.
Yep.
Again, if anybody needs like a primer on IPAs before listening to this episode, I would definitely suggest checking out our Stone episode. We did cover this beer, so let's try and cover it specifically with respect to the definition we just
super
gave.
Pale.
Very pale.
See through it.
Completely see through, beautifully clear.
Yep.
Nice
and I already took
cap.
my sip and I already taste pine. So
nice foam cap. So I'm gonna take my sip. Why don't you talk about the other flavors?
Yeah, it's definitely no malt really whatsoever. It's just a lot of pine. I believe Centennial is what was in this one.
So they use quite a few. Yeah. So Magnum, which is probably for bittering.
Yep.
Chinook, Centennial.
Yep,
so
Centennial.
that's your pine.
Yep.
Azaka.
Oh really? Okay.
Calypso,
Really?
and then a hop called Ella and Vic's Secret.
I don't know. I've never heard of that one.
It's trademarked, and I don't know.
Probably theirs.
I don't know what it is, but I believe Calypso and Azaka are both kind of more tropical. You've used Azaka, right?
I use Azaka. It is definitely a little more tropical. I believe it's from. I believe it's from New Zealand.
And
actually.
I do get some of those flavors.
Yeah, but that pine is hangs there too. It's just
it does. Yeah. Yeah. We I think described this beer last time as this is not your gateway IPA. This is an IPA for an IPA lover, and that to me
that's West
is
Coast, though.
That's the West Coast. Yeah, they love their hops over there, and they're not gonna apologize about it.
especially Stone. I think that was when we did the episode. They said we're not gonna apologize at all. This is what we're gonna do.
It's their whole shtick. Yeah.
But I mean, there are West Coast styles that do a little more of the citrus flavor with the pine. So Citra with. Centennial.
There's room to play. There's room to play.
There's quite a few in Oregon and Washington that do that.
So do you? Well, aside from Stone, what would be your kind of favorite example of a West Coast IPA?
Deschutes. Deschutes is a great one. That's over there in Oregon.
Is that? No, it's not. Who makes Sculpin?
I do not know.
Oh, shoot. Well, let me look it up. But what is Deschutes just called the Deschutes IPA? Or are you talking about Fresh Squeeze?
Fresh Squeeze, yeah, specifically.
Okay, yeah.
Deschutes they do a lot of IPAs as well, but it's not quite in your face with it, which is nice.
Ballast Point.
Ballast Point
Sculpin, that's another one of my favorites. Stone might be my favorite West Coast IPA, but Sculpin is really great too. And they've got the grapefruit Sculpin, they've got some fruited variations of that if you want to wet your toes without getting smacked in the face with a hop.
So they got. I'm looking at the shoots right now. They do have quite a few different West Coast styles. They got the Squeezy Rider West Coast IPA.
Wait, so is Fresh Squeezed considered a West Coast style?
I believe it is actually.
Because that one, you're right. Okay, that is not piney at all to me. That is very fruity and really almost it's got a lemon juice quality to it. It is so delicious.
Yeah.
That would be actually, okay, if that's a West Coast IPA, then that's your gateway West Coast IPA, I would say.
Yes, it is.
Fresh Squeezed is, it's absolutely delicious and pretty easy to find. So here, real quick. So I forgot to read the description. So this is what Stone says about their own IPA. This golden beauty explodes with tropical, citrusy, piney hop flavors and aromas, all perfectly balanced by a subtle malt character. I would probably say I'd flip the order of those words, tropical, citrusy, and piney, to be the opposite. Yes. But I generally agree. I think they nail that, and I think that's a pretty good encapsulation of what a West Coast IPA might look like.
Agreed. Yeah. No, I think this is. I mean, it is what it says on the bottle, the iconic West Coast style IPA.
Yeah.
They I think they are the godfather of West Coast IPA.
All right, well, let's move on. So
change gears completely.
So while you look up the stats, so we're going to be trying. So with New England IPA kind of being the predominant popular beer style, we grabbed rather than grabbing sort of an iconic we grabbed one that from a local brewery we really like that we know makes great beer.
Yep.
This is the Griffin Claw New England IPA, Juicy Haze. So I'm going to open that. Ryan, do you want to kind of read off the stats while I pour?
Absolutely. So it has 35 IBUs, so a lot less compared to
fully half of what Stone has.
And that's traditional with the New England IPA is that they usually go with a
it straight
less
up
IBU.
looks like I'm pouring pineapple juice out of here.
So it is 6.5%. It's about right as well, where you want it to be for the New England. And then the hops they use are Citra, Eldorado, and Mosaic. So Mosaic has a citrusy pininess to it. Obviously, Citra has a citrus orangey flavor to it. Eldorado, I believe, is a little fruitier. I've never used Eldorado.
I've never used Eldorado. I can look it up real quick. But I will say, okay, hazy definitely, bordering on murky almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, very hazy. Definitely has that like orange juice color.
Yeah.
I just are you looking it up?
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
Okay, then I'll get my initial impression. So I just when I smell it, it's straight up. If you handed me a glass of this, and I just smelled it, and you said, "This is like orange pineapple juice," I would believe you. Like it.
Yep.
It is so ridiculously evocative of juice, and it tastes like the Simply brand, like Simply Orange.
Yeah.
Simply Orange with pineapple. That is precisely what this smells like. So I'm
Eldorado
give it a taste here.
So Eldorado brings, as for later addition, so when it's used for flavoring, it brings bright tropical fruit flavors and aromas of pineapple, pear, watermelon, and stone fruit. But it can be used for bittering as well. But I'm pretty sure they use it in the end for this.
Wow. Yeah. So this
I'm gonna take my sip now.
Absolutely has that juicy thing. Like it is.
Got a whiff of it as I was drinking.
It is like barely. It's not bitter. It really is. It's like drinking juice. It's insane. I'm going to stand by orange and pineapple.
Yes,
strongly.
100%.
But I would say also there's a lot more complexity. And when you said pear, I was in the middle of a drink and my brain definitely registered a little bit of power of suggestion maybe, but I also got a little bit of like a tangerine. There's like they're kind of in that orange family, but there's a lot more complexity to it than just orange pineapple.
And honestly, when I took a whiff of it as I was about to drink. It like I think exactly what you said. That Simply orange juice.
Yeah.
Like that's like, and it looks like it too. Honestly, like I remember the first time I had a New England IPA I was at a wedding and like literally handed me a pitcher. I'm like, why the hell are they passing out orange juice?
Yeah.
and like no. Here, you like this? And I took a sip. I'm like, oh my.
Yeah. And now it is worth mentioning that like. I know, like one of my favorite New England IPAs is M43, from Old Dominion, Old Nation. Sorry.
That was one of the ones I had listed. If you wanted to find it, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, and I don't know how widely out of Michigan that is distributed, but
it's decently. I've seen it.
Okay, yeah, but it's a great beer. That to me, like this to me is like almost as New England IPA gets is like this. Mm-hmm. To me, M43 is a little bit closer. Like if you're coming from a standard IPA, I think you might be less jarred.
Yeah.
Honestly, going from Stone to this was legitimately jarring.
Yeah. No, agreed. I still actually have a pininess to it.
I can still feel the bitterness from the Stone in my
So another good example, which is probably easier to find because they are all over. Sam Adams does do a New England IPA, so you can find them there.
I guess it's not hard to find a New England.
No, most breweries probably do a New England. If not multiple ones.
They probably do 7. Yeah.
Like because we even went to Graph Cap last season. They had 2 actually. They had one really good one, the Never Ending IPA, which was really good, and I think they had another version of it that they were bringing out. Like they hadn't quite finished it. It was a different fruity flavor to it though. But a quick note on New England IPAs in general. So intense tropical fruit flavor. Definitely not nearly any malt flavor in there at all.
Yeah, but it is interesting because you use Maris Otter. Right,
yeah.
when you make yours, so you are using more characterful malts,
but you're putting so much hops in there.
They just get completely it's like you can't have like the kind of austerity of Stone where it's like there's you need the sweetness from the malts, you need those, but you're not using any character malts really, right? You're just kind of
So I will say this, so I do technically mine is a hazy. It's not a true New England, but hazy New England do go the same. Yeah.
Do you think they're different?
I think they came up with hazy so they didn't have to say New England because they wanted to be then just say like, oh, you got to go to New England to really get this. You can get it anywhere else. Like,
right. Yeah.
Because I think Griffin Claw does 2 different hazies as well.
Yeah, Griffin Claw seriously has, I think, 5.
Yeah. So for my hazy Triforce, for hops, this is a 4-gallon batch. I kid you not. For both the boil and for dry hop, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ounces of hops altogether. And 4 of that is in the dry hopping.
Wow.
In a 4-gallon batch.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot.
Like it is a lot of hops. And then for grains, like
a lot of late hops, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then for grains, like it's literally, I got for almost 5 pounds of wheat dry extract, and then a little bit of maris otter, a little bit of golden oats, and then crystal malt. That's it.
Yeah. So it is interesting. Like, yeah, there is a lot, but you're basically you're trying to add sweetness there. It almost seems like you're trying to use kind of rich sweet malts, but not malts that are going to like stand out, going like, hey, look at me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all, and then light DME as well.
It's
like
still a supporting character. Yeah. It's just kind of a sweeter palate.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we've kind of covered again, I think it's funny, like how these are like yin and yang.
Oh, they are.
Stone
like you could almost say like the stone is what you would if someone was coming to beer and like just knew the basics of beer and was told stone IPA, this is what they expect an IPA to do. It's going to have your pine, it's going to have a little bit of citrus, maybe a little bit of tropicalness to it, but it's going to hit you in the face. Most people probably aren't going to like it.
I believe they use that quote for their Arrogant Bastard. They say, this is an aggressive beer. You probably won't like it.
Exactly. But and that's what a lot of people probably expect from an IPA. This is probably the standard IPA. Now, if you go to the New England, we talked about this in the Gateway episode. I said this as a gateway to IPAs. You said no, because I don't consider an IPA.
Well, I think
I agree with you.
It doesn't prepare you for other IPAs.
Yes, exactly.
It's so far its own thing that it's like, we'll get to. I would argue that maybe some of the beers we're about to try are better gateways.
Yeah.
I think New England, they're good. Personally, I prefer a more IPA most of the time, but I love a good New England IPA, but to me, it's not the same thing. It's it's almost completely a separate style. Like if I'm craving hops or like I'm craving an IPA, I'm not craving a New England IPA. If I'm craving a New England IPA, I'm not craving a standard IPA. You know, they're like totally separate experiences.
Well, it's like this. Everyone, like, you like pizza, but for you, say barbecue chicken pizza. That's a very different style. That's some people would not say it would be pizza.
I love it. But put it on.
This is barbecue chicken pizza.
New England IPA is barbecue chicken pizza. That's so good.
Now I would appreciate that because that's always her
Stone
analogy.
IPA is a real classic. Anchovy and pepperoni.
No, it's like
not for everybody.
It's a straight New Yorker pizza right here.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah.
This is a New Yorker pizza.
Is there a California style pizza?
Yeah, it's a whole brand.
Okay, let's go to break on that.
Yes, let's go to break.
Cheers.
And we're going to try the new ones, but we have not really tried or don't know what the styles are. So, cheers.
You're going to be a great dad someday.
I know.
Jokes like that.
Hi there, I'm David.
And I'm Kate.
And we're the hosts of another Zelda podcast.
There are so many good podcasts out there, and some of them in particular concern the Legend of Zelda.
That's right, Kate, and we are another one of them. That is actually the name of our show, Another Zelda Podcast.
And in our show in particular, we talk about some of our favorite dungeons, characters, boss battles. We have top 10 lists.
Yeah, we do deep dives on game design and production aspects of the different Zelda games.
And we talk about our own experiences. We do some review episodes, talk about our challenges, our struggles, and our victories.
That's right. Really just almost anything that has to do with Zelda, we like to talk about it. A new episode comes out every other Friday, and you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and YouTube.
And you can also check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
That's right. All right, we will see you there.
Okay, bye!
Welcome to our new podcast. Welcome to our new podcast.
This isn't working.
Agreed. I think we're going to have to do it
turn by turn?
Well, now that you mention it, we are a brand new RPG video game podcast.
Our very existence hinges on turn-based gaming.
So join us on the Turn by Turn podcast, where we'll be talking about
Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Golden Sun, Shining Force, Mother, and so many more.
It's your turn to come and join us.
And we are back, and we're going to dive into what we're not really sure what it is. Like, we've had these beers that we're about to try, but like we never were told that's what they were. So we're going to start with Dogfish Head, and they do some great beers over there. But this one is called 60 Minute IPA.
Right.
So, first of all, actually, I want to ask you, because I don't think I know this question. Why did they call it 60 Minute IPA? Like,
so apparently, and I guess first of all, so Dogfish Head is based out of Delaware, so they're in New England.
Yeah, we talked about that.
They are. This is a beer that's been a long way before the invention of the quote unquote New England IPA. At least I think.
Oh yeah. Well,
and so this is kind of one that we consider. I didn't really find a East Coast IPA. The name has kind of been cannibalized by New England IPA as sort of a synonym, but I don't think it used to be. And I think that there are some people that use it to mean something different.
Yeah.
And we think that this is a pretty iconic early IPA from the East Coast to use as an example.
Yes.
So apparently they have some sort of mechanism to like be continuously adding hops throughout the entire 60 minutes.
Wow, okay.
So apparently, I didn't realize this, but I think 90 minute actually came first.
Oh,
90
really?
minute IPA. And then they did a scaled back version that became 60 minute IPA. But yeah, the whole idea, I guess, was to like get that whole spectrum of like the different like flavors you can get out from different timing of your additions. They just want all of it. So they're constantly adding hops. That's sort of what their website described. So yeah, very, very interesting.
Now let's talk about the style. So we don't know really anything. What is your feeling on East Coast?
So East Coast to me. So it was funny. I could have swore when I first was reading about Midwest, I remembered East Coast being its own thing. Then I tried Googling it in preparation for this episode to like find my old source, and I could not find that one. And everybody was just using it as a synonym for New England. Mm-hmm. Then I found a couple of sources that said that it's not that. It's sort of, I've heard it called kind of a hybrid between New England and like sort of West Coast. I've also heard it sort of, I saw it mentioned as like a stepping stone on the way to a New England IPA. So prioritizing a little more malt, prioritizing or deprioritizing bitterness, and changing the flavors out for maybe slightly more fruity flavors over piney maybe. I think that's like my editorial comment, but that was maybe my impression of like it was just kind of part way.
Yeah.
But it still mostly drinks like an IPA, just not quite as austere as a West Coast.
Yeah. I did my research as well, and you're actually spot on from what I found. So generally it is pretty malted, and uses a lot of citrus and fruity hop characters. But it won't be like as juicy as considered as a New England would. Funny enough, it's actually kind of considered the redheaded stepchild of a British IPA. So when we get to that Goose Island that we have saved to the end, we'll kind of see how that compares and everything. But looking at it, you just poured it. It looks great. It's definitely see through. It's a little like almost looks juicier with the color, but like it's clear.
It is. It's a little more of a dark gold than the stone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? On the nose, I definitely get like, I think the idea that it's like a midpoint is perfect because I get a little bit of pine. Mm-hmm. It doesn't taste like juice, but it is evocative of those flavors.
Yeah, well, Centennial. Yeah, Centennial hops.
Do they use Centennial hops? Okay.
Well, I see it on... Oh, maybe I thought it was.
Oh, man.
I thought my dyslexia kicked in.
That's the word continually.
Yes.
Continually hop for 60 minutes for an intense yet enticing hop-centric experience. So what they have to say about this on their website is golden amber, hop forward with piney and citrus notes. Again, I would flip those and say citrus and piney.
Yeah. I can agree.
crisp with slightly lingering bitterness.
Actually, no, because they're kind of the opposite. So Stone IPA, you get that little bit of fruits in the beginning, and then like slams you in the face with pine.
Right.
This is the opposite. You get that little bit of pine, and then kind of hits you with the juice a little bit at the end. So I get why they do it backwards.
I definitely, like this to me I wouldn't be surprised to learn that it was hopped with similar hops to the New England IPA.
Yeah.
I forgot. I haven't had 60 Minute in a long time. First of all, I forgot how delicious it is.
It is. Oh my God.
But it really, I think you hit that. So I don't get a lot of malt character from this.
No, not.
And again, maybe it's more that it's playing a supporting role, kind of like in the New England. You don't taste it, but it changes the balance. So this beer is, by the way, 6%, 60 IBU. So
that's pretty...
10 IBU fewer than Stone, but nowhere near as low as the 35 of the New England IPA. So everything does kind of line up with this being sort of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It is kind of, it's a New England IPA flavors with the balance of a more standard American IPA, or like a balance that's like 70% of the way to a West Coast.
Yeah. So I'm looking and I saw this might be like more of a clone recipe. So it's probably not quite there, but it looks like they use Chinook, Warrior, Summit, and Amarillo.
Okay, so fairly classic hops, and that makes a lot of sense since I think this beer predates a lot of the New World hops, a lot of
Dogfish has been around a long time,
and 60 Minutes been around at least for as long as I've known about Dogfish Head. So it is interesting. Like it really is. It's like it's an IPA that tastes like a New England IPA.
Yeah, I know, right?
That makes any sense. Kind of the same way you say it's like a beer that tastes like orange juice. No, it's like an IPA that tastes like a New England IPA. And it really is like, I don't know. I really actually think that
too, actually, which is probably why we get a little more citrus.
Now, so interestingly, why do you think? First of all, do you think that the idea that this is like a redheaded stepson of an English IPA is that? Do you find that to be true drinking it? And if so, like why?
We've done a British IPA, correct?
No,
I thought we did.
So.
I thought we did. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
We did.
Didn't we do an IPA episode a while back? Last season. We kind of did American to British, I thought. Or at least we tried to.
I don't think so.
That's a long time ago. Anyways.
I think we had talked about it for this episode. But,
okay.
I think we talked about doing it, but never got around to it.
But from what I've done my research on with British IPAs, like obviously the first IPA is really done. They're very simple. There's not like intense flavor as you would with a Stone. Yeah. They're not like super fruity like you would with a New England.
Their hop flavors are a lot mellower. And
I think that's what it is because I think over there they're using the main strains in Germany, what they grow there in England as well, the noble hops.
Yeah.
And not nearly as much as the piney citrusy that we get here.
Those flavors are like it's like an American terroir.
And I think it's just it is the malt wise. I think it's a nice build, and then the hops are just a little bit more intense than what you would get maybe in an England IPA. So.
That makes sense. Yeah. Because, my understanding of English IPA at least is, and I guess we'll see how the stats on Goose
we'll save a little bit so we go back.
Holds up to this, but it's sort of, I thought they're supposed to be less bitter than American IPA is, but still kind of hop forward.
Yeah.
And I could, in that sense, I could see this being sort of like an English, but it is definitely more hop forward than I would imagine any British style would be.
Yeah. No, agreed.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to take my last little sip here because we're talking too much.
Okay. Well, so let's move on to Midwest IPA then. So I know when I found Midwest IPA, basically what I saw, I didn't see it necessarily billed as a midpoint between New England IPA and West Coast IPA so much as I saw it as being like a more balanced version of the IPA. If the West Coast is kind of intentionally unbalanced, to be like really showcase the hops with everything else getting out of the way. The Midwest has way more supporting malt character, to kind of balance things out and smooth out the rougher edges of the West Coast, smooth out the intensity. So instead of like a slap in the face, it's more, or instead of a punch in the face, it's maybe like a soft, playful slap in the face.
Yeah, from what I did my quick research on, it seems like it's honestly the blog I read, and I can't remember who wrote it, but they said it's kind of a mix between a West Coast and an East Coast.
Okay.
Now,
were they using East Coast to mean New England, or
I think East Coast to mean not
like a dogfish head,
like a dogfish head. Okay. So like you get that little bit of fruitiness. It's not like all pine like you would on the West Coast style, but there's more of a malty build compared to it as well. I think the Midwest. I think what defines the Midwest is that they actually do a malt with it that you actually taste.
So like a tasteable special, or like a tasteable malt presence being a key characteristic of a Midwest.
Exactly, yes.
And that is, you're right, like that, at least if we consider Michigan Midwest, a lot of the IPAs around here, I will notice that. And like Zombie Dust, great example. A lot of their beers we found, despite being very hoppy, you could really taste the malt.
Yeah.
So we have chosen Bell's Two Hearted.
You can find generally most places.
It's been like voted the best IPA, period.
Yeah,
in I think multiple
gateway,
years.
Yeah.
And so that means Midwest is the best. But
not to brag.
but yeah, also it's probably the most classic example. Founder Centennial is probably another.
I almost got that one.
Very classic example. But so this is coming in at 7% ABV. 60 IBU, so a percent stronger than Dogfish Head, but the same amount of bittering. And famously, Two Hearted uses only Centennial hops. So Ryan, you've taken a sip now. Why don't you comment on like color, clarity? Give us your first impressions.
Clear as it would be, so definitely not like a New England. There's a little bit of cloudiness in there, but you still see through it. It's a nice, like almost
not
darker
quite crystal
amber,
clear, but
like a golden amber color to it as well.
Yeah, it is. It's the darkest. I mean, the New England's hard to judge because it's so
cloudy,
murky. Yeah, but this is the darkest of the three so far.
Yes, agreed.
If Dogfish Head was slightly darker than Stone, this is slightly darker than that. So that's interesting.
I think it's the malt build. That's got to be the malt build with it.
Yeah, and you definitely do get some malt flavor in here. A little bit of sweetness.
You definitely
some light caramel note.
Yep, you definitely get a little bit of sweetness at the beginning, and then that's the Centennial hops, which have a natural pine citrusness to it. Like that, that pine is still there, or could this be the IPA or the Stone IPA still in my mouth?
No, I think Centennial is definitely associated with a little bit of pine. I think so. An interesting thing I read, I'm curious to run by you.
Mm-hmm.
They said that I read somewhere that like West Coast, or I guess I cobbled this together, but it seems to kind of hold where it's like on East Coast and New England kind of prioritizes fruity flavors, citrus and tropical. In the West Coast, one of the defining characteristics is piney, and in the Midwest, there is in addition to fruit flavor, there is a floral thing that you find in a lot of Midwest beers. And like, I know that Centennial, a lot of people describe as having a floral character. Cascade as well. Yeah. Do you get floral in this beer in the balance anywhere?
I mean, as a quick moment, maybe, but like, I mean, the malt is strong. The pine part of the hops is strong.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's what really separates out the Midwest is that malt. Like I don't.
You're right.
I don't recall malt in really any other beers.
It's. I mean, Two Hearted we've talked about a bunch of times to the point that it's almost another bingo item. But it is. It's called a gateway. We called it a gateway IPA for a reason because it's not too anything. It really is very well balanced. But you're right. Like I think that malt it does cover up the hops a little bit. Mm-hmm. They're not showcased the way they are in the Stone. But everything is in a really nice balance. And I definitely, I feel like I get a little bit of a floral thing along with the kind of grapefruit, citrus kind of notes that Centennial has. I don't get a lot of pine in Two Hearted Ale. But I believe that it's there.
I think it's the back end for me.
I believe that it's there.
I think it's just the back end, the dryiness that comes with it as well. I mean, it's a very drinkable beer. I still love it.
It is a just disturbingly dangerous beer.
It is. As your father has learned.
As my father learned.
We've told the story, but like
it was his gateway IPA.
It was.
To his detriment. He was ordering at a bar and had no idea how strong it was. But yeah. All right. So a classic. Real quick, let me just read. So this is what Bell's has to say about about Two Hearted. So, bursting with hop aromas ranging from pine to grapefruit, from massive hop additions in both the kettle and the fermenter, perfectly balanced with a malt backbone and combined with the signature fruity aroma of Bell's House yeast. So that's an interesting point to consider. Like, they use the same beer for Two Hearted that they use for or same yeast as they use for Oberon. They have one ale yeast they use for all their beers.
Interesting.
And so I wonder how much of the fruit flavor we're getting is from the yeast versus the Centennial hops.
Or the yeast bring out that fruit flavor.
Maybe they bring it out, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of another interesting point where I feel like in a Midwest, I know in New England, famously you often use very expressive yeast, like an English yeast or something. One that's not going to dry the beer out too much, but also one that's going to produce fruit esters.
Yes.
And I feel like you could, again, this is another one of those sort of, you could just pull a slider from one side of the country to the other, where on the West Coast, I'd be more inclined to use a very clean yeast.
Yeah.
In the Midwest, I feel like you could get away with something like Bell's that has like pleasant but fairly restrained esters, and then in New England you're like, you want a lot of esters because you're just packing as much fruit flavor as you can in there.
Yeah. And honestly, going back to that, like, 'cause I use I forgot who makes it now. This literally set my brain.
Imperial,
yeah. They have one called Juice, and literally, like, it's made for New England IPAs. It's the only thing it's there for.
And I believe that might be a British. It might actually be a Kvike. I don't know.
I think it is Kvike, actually.
Is it? Okay.
They do have another Kvike.
Because a lot of the Kvikes are really fruity too, but I know like a lot of people recommend English strains too, like the fuller strain. Like I know for Imperial, it's like I think AO9 Pub and AO1 House, both being like British strains that throw a lot of fruit flavor.
Yeah.
That are really good for New England. So yeah, just if you're a brewer, that's another thing to consider. And it's funny. So almost everything we've talked about is basically a continuum from west to east. You get on the west, it's aggressive, it's clean, it's light, it's austere. And then as you travel to the east, generally it gets sweeter, it gets less bitter, and it gets fruitier. But the Midwest throws a couple of interesting exceptions. One, I think Two Hearted is the darkest of these beers.
Yes.
And two, I think it is the maltiest.
It definitely is.
So it's not just
we got all that grain
yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. When in Rome.
Yes.
Brew like the Romans do. Okay. So with that all covered, this is almost kind of this was a bonus one, but we grabbed some Goose Island IPA. Goose Island is based out of Chicago. However, they sell their IPA as being an English IPA. So they or as an English style IPA. Now they list their hops. They have Pilgrim, which is a UK hop.
Okay.
Silea, which is actually, it's like a noble hop. It's an offspring of Styrian Golding, which is like used in a lot of
nice. I like
it's
that.
like a Slovenian hop. And then Cascade and Centennial, which are obviously quintessential American hops. So we can recognize this is probably like an American bastardization of an English IPA, but
that's what we do best.
That's interesting. That's why we're covering it on this episode. Like, if these are all the regional variations, then what is an American brewery looking to make an English beer? What is that like? And Brian, you, I think I just said Brian.
Yeah, it happens.
Two Hearted, man.
I know, right?
Oh crap! I lost my train of thought.
Come back.
They completely threw me off. But yeah, it's just interesting to see because ultimately all of these beers can be made anywhere. Like a West Coast style beer can be made in Michigan,
as it is.
And
New England,
New England is made all over the place, and so just interesting to see kind of how an American brewery interprets an English style. So. They have to say about this: hoppy citrus with grapefruit, pine, and floral notes. Balanced finish, 5.9%. So the weakest of all of them, but not by a ton.
No.
And 55 IBU, which is the weakest of the non-New England IPAs. So, yes. Ryan, do you have any experience drinking actual British IPA?
I do not, actually. I thought we did, but
I don't think I do either. I know I've had Bass, which is a pale ale.
It's a pale ale, yeah.
And that I found to be very malty, actually.
It is, yes.
Um,
and I will say, looking at this already, it definitely does not look like a pale ale. It looks more like a lager.
Yeah, so this is very clear. This reminds me of Stone, and it's the way that it looks. Very clear, very pale. Interesting.
That's very weird.
Very interesting
smell.
Very interesting smell. It is kind of it's a weird hybrid.
Yeah.
You know, I remembered my thought from earlier. You had said while you're taking your sip, you had said that East Coast was sort of a bastardization of British. So I'm curious how much parity we see between Dogfish Head and this beer, if they're even remotely similar. I know from the smell, you can smell that there are some non-American hops in there featured prominently.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So what you've taken your sip, what do you think?
It's definitely not what I expect an IPA. Like an IPA, like even any of the ones that we've had, there is a slight slap to your face in one way or the other. West Coast, you get slapped by the pine. New England, slap with the juice, and then everything in between. But like this is just like a nice mellow.
Man, I haven't had this beer in a while. I love this.
I know,
my
this
God.
is really good.
This might be my favorite of the bunch, actually. Yeah, but you know what I think it is? It's so I know
there's something that really hits you.
Goose Island is in Chicago, so it's possible they probably follow to some extent some of the Midwest conventions.
Mm-hmm.
I get malt in this for sure,
which is surprising with the color.
Yeah, it is surprising, isn't it? You're right. Yeah. I wonder kind of how that. Now I wonder if it's okay. I believe they maybe listed their I want to say they listed their malts on their website, and they did not use Maris Otter. They used just regular Pale Two-Row, but they used some Munich malt. Okay. And I wonder if that's what we're tasting.
Might be good, yeah.
Because that would add some malt flavor without adding that much color, depending on how much they used. But it is like the addition of those like noble and the kind of like, I don't know a lot about Pilgrim, but UK hops are often kind of variations of earthy. I've even heard Fugel described as being kind of like mushroomy.
Fugel is definitely, yeah.
Almost, and like tea-like, and I feel like that is just a really nice balance to the fruity, like fruity, floral, piney, the kind of traditional American hop flavors. It's a really, really nice balance to it.
So Pilgrim, considered round and full-bodied with classic English-style bitterness, its complex flavor and aroma has been likened to grassy herbs, grapefruit, citrus, berries, and pears, right through to spice, cedar, and honey. I can definitely get cedar.
Really?
Like it's mellow. That's why.
More. We might just drink all of this.
Yeah, it might be. But like
we usually try and keep our sips small, but
like the pear and the cedar, like I kind of get with the feel, especially like it's there where it's not like hit you in the face strong.
Yeah, now that you say pear, I can definitely convince myself.
And honey as well. I think the honey kind of probably mellows out too.
Yeah, I wonder to what extent that's the hops, though.
Mm-hmm. No, that is the hops.
Yeah,
that is flavor of the hops,
I would say if you took my idea of what an English IPA probably is, and then you just poured half a glass of Two Hearted in, that's kind of how this would come out, I think.
Yeah, I can say that.
And I love it. I'm a huge fan of this. So interesting. It really does. It really does seem like now. Okay, so like I said, how much parity do you see between? Do you get any of the flavors in this beer that you got in the Dogfish Head?
I think because of how the Dogfish Head was, it was also one of the mellowest of flavors. I think that's a similarity between the two. Like it has a little intense flavor to it, but not nearly the mellowness as this, and not nearly the intenseness of any of the other ones.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's because of the hops used in both beers. I think they kind of mellows it out. Not crazy on the malt build. I think they are. I would probably agree with that description as the redheaded stepsister or child that they don't want.
Right. Yeah. An awkward an awkward tweener.
The Americanized version, like obviously this is an American version of a British IPA, but I would probably say that 60-minute IPA is definitely a little more Americanized version of a British IPA.
Right. If Goose Island is like it's an American caricature of a British IPA, then like Dogfish Head is like, in its genome, it's a quarter British or it's half British or something. Yeah.
Well, I would say Goose Island's half British because you got half of the British hops, and then I think 60 Minute would just be a quarter British.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So, all right. So let's round up. We've done a little bit of summary. I think actually our research seemed to pan out that like what we read online was pretty well borne out.
Pretty well. They did their work. They did their job.
Yeah.
They did good research, and we just took credit for it.
So if you were to brew now I know you brew a New England IPA, which
Correct.
is excellent. Actually, I'd like not just to blow your head up to be too big, but it's one of the best New England IPAs. It's one of my favorite New England IPAs.
Yeah.
Like
Thank you.
really
Appreciate
like
that.
right up there with M43. And I think part of the reason is it has great flavor without being quite as like unbitter as like for instance like this Griffin Claw one, which again, it's a great example of the style. They're a great brewery. I'm not knocking them, and people want that. But for me,
you gotta have balance.
I want to pull it just back a little bit. I want to pull it back a little bit. And to be fair, like they have like 5 New Englands, and this one is called Juicy Haze. So like you should know what you're getting.
Yes, exactly.
But if you were to just brew, you know, you sort of run the gamut now. If you were to brew an American IPA that was just your like, you can only have one for the rest of your life.
Only one Highlander.
You can brew one, and that's the only IPA you'll ever get to drink again. Where in this kind of continuum of flavors do you fall?
Oh, that's mean.
I know, but I want to know.
You know what?
Or how would you kind of cobble all this together? You know, you can kind of make up your own version.
Because I do 2 actual IPAs. I do the Hazy Triforce, and I have the Impatient Bastard.
Right.
Which the Impatient
is more traditional IPA.
Well,
plus tangerine
I would say,
feel.
I would say it's probably close to Two Hearted. It's a little more Midwestern because I base it off of All Day IPA.
Yeah.
So which is here based in the Midwest. I think it has a little more of Midwest
that's
feel.
like a session, but it is definitely kind of
Yeah. I would probably what I would want to do is I would want to do, and we talked about this because you were hesitant at first and now you're on board. I would do something like Stone, but I would strictly use Citra to kind of balance it out. So, because like Citra has a pininess, but it also has a nice intense citrus flavor to it, obviously. So I would probably hit it hard with that.
So keep like high bitterness, but use a hop that brings a ton of flavor to kind of balance things out.
So I would probably,
so you'd end up with zombie dust, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. But what I would do is I would hit it hard with hops at the bittering, and then of course a little bit of the flavoring, and I'd dry hop it with Citra still. And and then balance out that strong pine and bitteriness with it, and balance it out with that citrusness at the end. That's what I would do. What about you?
You know, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so I think my like kind of my so I have a specific distinct love for West Coast IPA when I'm in a certain mood, and for New England IPA when I'm in a certain mood. But I think my ideal beer, we've talked about like my ideal IPA is somewhere in the like Dragon Mead Crown Jewels to Terrapin Hopsecutioner IPA, where it's like
where would those fall though?
Kind of I would call them Midwesty, where like there's definitely a balancing malt character.
Okay.
Particularly in Crown Jewels.
And honestly with
Hopsecutioner, yeah. So that was what I was going for when I made that Master Tomberry IPA. I think I would take that and I would more or less keep it. So that is, I would probably, after learning this, I would say that it's like a Midwest style IPA. I thought of it as like bordering on an English style IPA, but that's just because it had some malt. Yeah. And we've learned now that is, you know, kind of a quality of the Midwest as well, and Midwest and the East Coast. So I think I would take that and I would just tweak it a little bit. And I think next time I brew that beer, I'm going to try adding in some like UK hops. Ooh, okay. Because I love what the Goose Island brought. I think maybe for like the middle of maybe the 20-minute edition, or I don't know, try some Fugels or something.
Maybe, yeah.
And try and bring whatever this has, this kind of it quality where we just both went, wow, that is interesting, and I like it.
It's very different because all those hit you in the face, but that one is just like, hi, I'm here.
Yeah, right, yeah. Because right now that my first run on that beer, it was made mostly with the hops that Hopsecutioner uses, which are for the most part they're all classic kind of C hops.
Yeah.
Cascade Centennial,
Citra, yeah, something like that.
I think Amarillo they use, but
Amarillo.
But yeah, so
Mosaic,
those kind of classic American hops, not Mosaic, but I don't think it uses Mosaic. But,
Okay.
But yeah, I would basically keep that and just perfect that beer. But I do plan on adding a little bit of like across the pond hopping to it next time.
Yeah.
I think if
That'd
I've
be
learned
really cool.
anything, it's that like I really, really like what that brings, you know, to the table. That little bit of earthiness, like really just makes it a completely different experience.
So I have a question for you, and I'm realizing this. So we have West Coast, we have Midwest, we have East Coast, and specifically New England. Where's the South at?
I don't know. They're all drinking bourbon.
Well, that's your... Try... What if you took an IPA? Like, say we'll do a simple British IPA.
Okay.
In secondary, age it in bourbon.
Oh, I don't know. That'd be weird.
So instead of your dry hopping, you add... So you're going to do...
I think you'd have to be really careful what hop flavors.
Yes, agreed. Because honestly, pine could work with that, with like a bourbon barrel, because it is cedar, it is oak. It's like you're sticking.
So you'd be using Pilgrim.
Yes, Pilgrim. Pilgrim would be the best one to use. But like, imagine doing that as dry hopping. You throw in bourbon chips.
Very interesting.
I'm intrigued.
There's a like a hop product I've heard of. It's called Provoke, but OAK. Provoke.
Okay.
And it's made, I think it's like hot pellets with like little bits of oak mixed into like the blend. So it gives you a kind of barrel aged character from your hops.
Yeah.
It sounds like it would accomplish a similar thing, or maybe be a fun place to experiment with. Like if you mixed that with other hops and you like it, then maybe that's a sign that you could use those hops in a real barrel, or you just say, well, this is really good with the Provoke.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep it. No, that'd be interesting, but I wonder if something like that wouldn't be, or like you said, like secondary with oak chips might be good, but you don't want to age an IPA because hop flavor fades.
Agreed, yeah.
But in a barrel, it takes a long time. With chips, it's real fast.
Yeah.
And that would be probably fine.
Yeah, that's it. I might have to try that one day. We'll see.
All right.
It's the only way I can do Southern.
I look forward to tasting it, yeah.
One day.
So it's funny you mention that, though, because another sort of missing region is kind of the Mountain West.
Yeah.
And Colorado, like Denver has a huge density, especially of Denver Breckenridge. Like there's a huge density of breweries in Colorado. I think Boulder, too. And they have sort of been trying to coin. I came upon this thing that was called a Colorado style IPA, and I was like, okay, now if every state had its own style, but it basically it was sort of the slider thing. It's like it was sort of it was billed as being almost West Coast, but with a little more balance in it, and maybe a bit more fruit.
See, I thought they were going to use hemp or something on it.
we used like pot instead of hops.
You got those names out there. There's Dankalicious out there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but yeah. So that's something we didn't cover it because honestly, like it's pretty newfangled.
To find one too, it would be difficult. For us.
So you can get like a Breckenridge Brewing beer around here. We probably could find one, but our list was big enough, and we'll see if it sticks. It kind of feels to me kind of like a marketing ploy right now. Sorry if you're from Colorado and you believe differently.
We thought the same thing with New England.
Yeah, you're right.
Now it's still here.
So people can probably pull this episode up in a year and go, you guys are dumb. But nonetheless, we didn't cover that one, but be aware that is apparently...
I was about to say.
It's another variation, but it does seem like it kind of fits in with the general trend of like East to West,
Yeah. I was going to say, we're going to get some listener feedback in like 4 years and be like, well, you guys were wrong on that.
Yeah.
Well, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So... now that we're done with this, if you know of another region, like maybe Colorado, or maybe there is a southern style that we don't know.
If the little town you live in Montana thinks that they have their own substyle of IPA,
they put bison in it. Okay. Anyway, but if you know of another region that we should reach out to, maybe try, Mike, where can they find you to talk to you about it?
Well, if you would like to reach us on the official podcast feed, you can go to our handle on Twitter at Brewthers-In-Law. No spaces, spelled the same way as the podcast. We also have a website, brewthers-in-law.com, that you can visit if you would like more info on our show and our episodes. And then additionally, Ryan, where can people find you on social media?
They can find me on Twitter. I'm at Rambo Kuhn, which is RAMBOKUHN. And then you also have, I'm also on there for anything brewing related. That's Wise Old Owls Brew. And then you can also find me on TikTok with the same exact name, Wise Old Owls Brew. And then you can, of course, find us wherever you listen to podcasts. That's YouTube, that's Spotify. I will say on Apple Podcasts, we are officially on channel. 65 Media is officially its own channel.
Oh, cool.
On Apple Podcasts. So if you're interested in Turn by Turn, which they do a lot of podcasts on role-playing games, RPG games, AZP, which is the flagship, anything Zelda related. You can do, they have a Broadway to Broadway, which is talking about Broadway shows. They have a ton of different shows, and new ones are coming up left and right. So 65 is definitely bringing up a lot of new shows. You can find us on Apple Podcasts on that channel for us.
What?
So I think with that, we've had plenty of beer for today, and it's only 1:00. So with that said, cheers.